shit, guys! Fire our shit!
Well, howdy folks, and welcome back to the garage. Today I'm back looking at the next Chinese medium in the line, the T-34-2, which has arrived with the advent of Update 4.6. These Chinese mediums are a welcome addition to the game, I think, as they're not copy and paste Soviet mediums. They've got a lot of differences, although their ancestry is undeniable. Hull armor is very light, much like the T-34-1, with 70 on the front, 45 on the sides and rear. Front plating has very nice sloping and should afford you some bounces at extreme angling, while sides and rear you need to be careful with the side armor. Not having any space skirting, nor do the tracks cover up the side very well either. There's many HE slinging vehicles out there that will be able to pen and do full damage. Be careful. Turret armor is definitely in the strong suit here, with 180mm on that well-rounded front and 120mm as you move to the sides and just 60 at the rear. Hull down, you'll be quite annoying to many Reds, but I wouldn't recommend squaring off and trading shots as your main strategy with this tank. The Dash 2 will maneuver similarly to the Dash 1, just a little slower on the acceleration as the power-to-weight ratio of 17 horsepower per ton is just slightly less than the Tier 7. Traverse speeds are still excellent for both hull and turret, at 52 degrees per second on the hull and 47.98 degrees on the turret, and top speed is a very acceptable 50 kilometers per hour. I would suggest caution when circling anything other than the slowest heavies in this tank, as the acceleration may not be up to the job and could leave you with a few extra holes in your tank if you aren't careful. There are two Tier 8 guns available, one being a variant of the Soviet 122mm with its typical 175mm of penetration and 400 average damage. And unfortunately, it also brings with it the typical almost 4 rounds per minute rate of fire and a .412 dispersion rating. On a strange but bright note, this 122mm has a grid aim time of 3.1 seconds. While this gun hits hard, it still doesn't make this tank a real brawler. You just don't have the armor for that. DPM is really quite low as well, managing only 1,564 damage per minute without any consumables or equipment loaded. This gun will be great for assassinating wounded enemies that you've flanked while your own heavies had engaged them frontally. Myself, though, I prefer the other choice, the 100mm unit, which has slightly better penetration at 181mm and a significantly better rate of fire at 6.26 rounds per minute, but has a lot less alpha damage at 280 hit points. This translates into a DPM rating of 1,752 damage per minute, which is better than the 122mm, but really it's quite low. Compare it to the T-34 100mm gun, which can manage 2,094 damage per minute before any goodies are applied. Hell, it's even slightly worse than the Type 59's 100mm, which comes in at 1,789. Dispersion is improved at .374, but the aim time is inexplicably worse than the 122 at 4.4 seconds. The combo of aim time and dispersion makes this not an ideal vehicle for sniping, but rather combined with the mobility, you'll be able to shift your position on the battlefield, be a constant pain harassing the Reds and distracting them. It should also be noted that whichever gun you mount, it seems that gun depression is abysmal. It's probably quite generous to call it 5 degrees. So, how would I play this tank? I guess it depends on which gun is mounted. If the 122mm is mounted, I'd go after wounded enemies and finish them with 1 or 2 shots while they're engaged frontally with my heavy tanks. If the 100mm, then it's the higher rate of fire. You can harass enemy tanks, distracting them so they lose focus on your own heavies, who may have engaged them frontally, which will really help your heavies out. Your lightly armored hull means you have to be careful wherever you go to conserve your 1,400 hit points as best as possible. Be wary of enemy lights and mediums, as they all pack a punch at Tier 8, and they'll only be too happy to help bleed away your health pool. Overall, I think this is going to be a challenge to do well with the low penetration figures, low overall DPM, the mediocre mobility, very light hull armor, and gun depression that is barely worth mentioning, all make this tank, and others in the higher tiers as well, as it turns out, vehicles that need a good team in front of it. You won't be able to carry much on your own here. Well, folks, there you have it. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like down below. If you really enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments. As well, be sure to visit my social media pages, both on Facebook and Twitter. This is where I post info that, well, not belonging in a video, it's worth taking a look at. I would also like to give a shout out to my Patreon supporters. You folks are making a huge difference for me. If you like what I do and enjoy the community all of us humans are building, please consider supporting the mission via my Patreon page. There are quite a few options with varying levels of support. Maybe one of them will suit you. Links to all things in the video description. Alright folks, thanks very much for stopping by and watching. I'll catch you next time.